My name's Daniel Smalley. I'm the business manager within our factory automation business. So I'm responsible for the WinCC product range within the UK and Ireland. So today it's our final session with the version 17 introduction sessions that we're running. So we've run sessions Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week. I'm going to introduce you to some more technical detail to WinCC Unified. So we've already had an overview that we covered on Tuesday, and we're going to have a deeper dive in terms of some of the technical aspects today. I'm being very ably supported by my colleague, my pixelated colleague there on the right, Colin Street. Colin is our WinCC technical specialist here in the UK. So Colin's going to take us through a bit of a technical deep dive into some of the WinCC Unified topics. So as a little recap in terms of our launch events that we've done this week, if you haven't watched them, you have a chance as you've registered to watch these back again. So on Tuesday, we kicked off with an overview from myself and Damien Payton, covering some of the high-level features that we've introduced with version 17. We followed this on Wednesday, where we took a deep dive into some of the topics focused around the PLCs, around the hardware, so covering topics such as safety and security, and taking a first view at things like the WinCC Unified view of things. And here we are today with a visualization section based on WinCC Unified. So we're going to make all the material that you see available today available to you after the webinar. So there's no need to go doing all your screen snips. We're going to give you a copy of all the slides in a PDF format, and we're going to give you a copy of the full recording that you hear today, including the live demonstrations that we go through. So these will be available within about an hour, 2 hours after the end of this webinar. So you'll get a follow-on email, so you'll be able to have a look at this. So without further ado, we'll kick off. So WinCC version 17 released on the 28th of May. So if you've got your SOS contracts in place, if you already purchased WinCC, then you're in a position to start working with it, but you may not be familiar with some of the new features that we've introduced. This is quite a big increase in terms of the functionality we have with WinCC Unified over above what we have with version 16. So you can see a whole lot of new features and functionality as we continue to scale up within WinCC Unified. So we get to the point where we are really a fully featured SCADA visualization system within the TIA Portal. So first of all, without further ado, it wouldn't be a launch without a nice video to kick off with. So we'll pass over to the video and start this session. So there we go, a nice intro video for you to get you introduced to some of the main topics we're going to have a look at with WinCC Unified. So with the launch of version 16, we introduced you to a graphic that's quite similar to this, that showed our common engineering environment for WinCC Unified based on TIA Portal, and we showed how we can seamlessly deploy visualization systems onto common platforms for the WinCC Unified Comfort Panels and the WinCC Unified PC-based platforms. So one of the big changes we made with version 17 is we've expanded the scope in terms of the supported platforms that we have for WinCC Unified. So the first one we've added is the WinCC Unified view of things. So this is the ability to deploy WinCC Unified graphics and visualization onto an S7-1500 controller. So we touched upon this on yesterday and on Tuesday, and we're going to dive into this in a bit more detail. And also on the right there, we can see on Tuesday, we introduce you to the concept of WinCC Unified for Industrial Edge. So this is a new addition to the portfolio, but as you can see in red down there at the bottom, this is the first release that we have. So So we're currently working with test customers at the moment. So we're in an incubation phase, but the idea is that we bring this into the mainstream portfolio towards the end of this year, supporting the mainstream release for our industrial edge platform itself. So big expansions in terms of what we can support on the platform. If it's visualization within TIA Portal, it's WinCC, and it's WinCC Unified across the platforms. In terms of the highlights, this is covering, I guess, some of the general highlights. I'll focus more specifically on some of the version 17 highlights following this. As we know from WinCC Unified, one of the big advantages is we've got this full scalability. So a common platform where we can start very small, for instance, within the F7-1500 controller itself, and we can seamlessly scale up using a common engineering environment from the PLCs to the HMIs to the PC-based platform and beyond. We also support now 0 installation clients. So we have one type of client. It's all based on HTML5. So the clients are browser-based. So there's no client-side install required with WinCC Unified, and any HTML5 based browser will support Unified. We have very nice features and functionality in terms of the automated engineering of WinCC Unified projects. So we'll have a look at these in a bit more depth. So we'll have a focus on, for instance, SiVArc as an option for mass engineering of WinCC Unified projects. And we'll also take a quick look at the TIA Portal Openness that we support with Unified. We have the ability to expand WinCC Unified by open extensions. So if we need to integrate, for instance, standard web controls from other systems, be it maybe a camera control, or you want to integrate some weather data, or just another web page, or a PDF, or something like that, we have standard controls that allow us to integrate third-party systems in terms of integrating into a common visualization system. Modern user interface. WinCC Unified looks great. You know, this is a big driver. It's a big selling point for the visualization systems, that it really needs to look great. It needs to have high quality and performance there. So we think you're going to like what you see on the user interface side of things. We covered this in some detail yesterday around security and access control. Security by default, it is absolutely fundamental to TIA Portal, and of course for WinCC Unified as well. So an important understanding is required in terms of the management, for instance, of certificates, because we actually encrypt all the communications within WinCC Unified. We support distributed systems, so we have a concept of collaboration, so we can have disparate WinCC Unified systems collaborating with each other, so it's very easy to integrate shop floor systems into one visualization system. And finally there, we see WinCC Unified very much as an integration platform for all our shop floor systems into high-level systems. So be it an MES, be it a cloud platform, be it a scheduling system, whatever that you're operating within your facility, we want to make it as easy as possible to get this data up and into these systems. So some of the version 17 specific topics that we'll take a look at. There's a whole load of updates in terms of the engineering of TIA Portal. To be honest, too much to cover today, but we will highlight some of these as we go along. All about making your life easier in terms of working with the TIA Portal and WinCC Unified. So things like the versioning of objects, very important within the library now included. We've expanded the support for OPC-UA connectivity over and above the support for the client and server based on data access. We also support alarms and conditions as a server as well, and we'll continue to see that functionality expanded. We have expanded the parameter control. So for instance, you can support multi-languages directly in the parameter control, and we can support user data types nested within user data types. So we can build up quite complex structures there. On the user interface side, we've included some new flat styles. So we include a day and night switch and some flat styles, and I'll show you these in a little bit more detail. On the connectivity side, we've increased the functionality in terms of we now support the software controller and the PLC Sim Advanced natively within TIA Portal. And we've included a standard diagnostic control that you can easily integrate the diagnostics buffer of 1500 directly into the TIA Portal WinCC Unified Visualization System. On the user management, we now include central user management for both the panels and for the PC-based system. So again, very, very important and supports our concept around security. And finally there, under the options, we'll have a look at a few options, some of the plant intelligence options like Performance Insight, and we'll have a deep dive into the semantic visualization architecture option as well. So our first deep dive topic, we're going to have a quick focus on the clients. So one of the nice new things we introduced on the WinCC Unified Comfort panels is the ability to support remote web-based clients. So we always had, with previous versions of the Comfort panels, so pre-unified, the ability to use what we would call the smart server. So this gave us synchronous access to the HMI. What it meant was you could remotely access the HMI itself, but the access was synchronous, so you were really seeing a mirror of what was on the HMI screen, and you couldn't get this independent control. We still support that because that's a very, very nice option. But in addition to that, we've added asynchronous access to the HMI. So we now support client-server access directly from an HMI. So that is supported up to 3 remote clients, which require licenses. So these are the client licenses, and then the same client licenses we use on the PC-based platform. And to get you started, we include 1 full client as default within the HMI itself. So you get 1 client operated included free of charge within the HMI panel. So you can easily test this remote access. If you want to expand it, you can buy licenses for another 2, and then you've got effectively 4 independent HMI accesses based on the 1 physical piece of hardware. So we think this is a very, very nice option and really giving you new functionality on the panels. So let's have a look from the PC-based platform perspective. So of course, we always supported the HTML5 client, but now we've split the types of client licenses we offer. So the client itself is fundamentally exactly the same, but we have 2 licensed options. One is client operate. So this is what you would have known from version 16. This is a fully featured client. We can do everything we can do within WinCC Unified. It's a read-write client, but we've added to that a monitor-only client. So this is a lower cost client, and it has some functionality restricted. So basically the ability to write into the system has been restricted. Of course, you can navigate screens, etc., but we can't enter variables, for instance. Now, this might be a nice use case, maybe where you want to add, for instance, some KPIs on an and-on screen or something like that. So you don't necessarily need a full client, because you're not actually interacting with it. This gives you the ability to have a lower cost client. So these clients are additive, so we can add as many licenses we want into the server, and then we've got the options between the operator and monitor. And again, like with the panel, we actually give you some clients to get started. So for the PC-based runtime system, you get 1 local client that's always used locally to the server, and you get 2 additional clients, 1 operate and 1 monitor included in every runtime license, so you can try out the functionality for yourself, and you can scale them up then if required. So moving swiftly on, to give you a quick look at the styles I mentioned earlier, we've introduced 3 predefined styles within WinCC Unified. So out of the box, you've got the default style, which we think look very, very nice. And we've got these additional styles that are more flat style based on the look and feel maybe you're familiar with from like an iOS or an Android operating system. So one of the styles we include there is this dark style, where we've got the dark and bright style, and these styles can actually be interchanged in runtime. So for instance, you might want to have like a day and night mode, for instance. So we've got some customers, for instance, that use our visualization systems, for instance, on the deck of a ship, where they might want to operate the system differently when they get lower ambient light conditions. Now we can seamlessly switch these in runtime. Moving on, having a quick look at connectivity. So we support, obviously, very tight integration within the Siemens devices for connectivity. We support obviously 1200, 1500, 300, 400. We have native connectivity to third-party devices, including Modbus TCP, Ethernet IP for Allen Bradley and Omron, the seamless messaging protocol, and the Mitsubishi TCP IP. This is, of course, in addition to the OPC support that we have. So if you're using WinCC Unified on a comfort panel, we support up to 16 PLCs using the standard driver. This has been increased from 8. And on the PC-based platform, we support up to 10 connections as standard. So that's free of charge with the runtime system. If you're going beyond 10 connections, you need a softnet extension license. This can be up to 64 PLCs or all the way up to 128 PLCs and 600,000 tags on a single server, so highly scalable. As I mentioned earlier, we support the S7-1500 software controller and the Open controller as well natively within WinCC Unified. On the openness side, we've got a lot of flexibility. So in terms of the openness of the engineering of WinCC Unified, we support TIA Portal openness. A very, very powerful option that's supported across the TIA Portal platform. It comes free of charge and it provides you with an open API for engineering your entire TIA Portal project, now including the visualization system for panels and PC-based platform based on WinCC Unified. So this externally to the TIA Portal allows us to create our own custom code where we can generate, alter, validate, or even analyze existing WinCC Unified projects for things like the generation of tags, alarms, archives, screens, the whole hierarchy. So this is a very, very nice option for system integrators, for OEMs, for larger end users that want the ability to auto-generate TIA Portal projects and have data-driven systems, automating some of the repeatable actions that you might have within the normal engineering process. Very, very powerful, and something from here in Siemens UK we can support you with in terms of getting a better understanding around a workshop or something like this. So please take note of this. Next topic we want to have a look at is the WinCC Unified View of Things, a new option for TIA Portal introduced with version 17. We introduced with the overview yesterday. We had a session on it yesterday with Rob Moracco, and something we're rightly proud of because it gives us a whole new level of flexibility in terms of how we configure the visualization systems within an automation project. So what is it? Well, first of all, it's based on TIA Portal. We use the WinCC Unified Screen objects, and what we're doing is actually configuring the web server on the S7-1500. So we're not creating a new runtime, we're just configuring the web server that was, to be honest, always available within the S7-1500, but previously you had to really get into the HTML5 code to actually program anything on top of this. So we can create web screens based on the S7-1500, the ET200SP controller. So the S7-1200, for instance, is not currently supported with WinCC Unified View of Things. There are some limitations and preconditions in terms of what we can do. So first of all, in terms of the preconditions, we need, of course, TIA Portal version 17, the Step 7 professional option, which contains these View of Things features that we're going to use within the library. We need a WinCC engineering license. So as a minimum, we would need the WinCC Unified Comfort engineering license. This is to give us the unified engineering environment. But anything from the unified comfort engineering all the way up to the full PC-based system would work. We support all of the Simatic S7-1500 CPUs from the standard controllers, the ET200SP, failsafe, the technology CPUs, and we also support PLC Sim Advanced version 4, which is the new release with version 17. As a minimum, we require firmware version 2.9, so you may need to update the firmware version. In terms of the performance, the unified view of things is running on a PLC. It's not intended to replace a full HMI or a full PC-based system, but it gives you a great entry level in terms of using the system itself. And I'll show you some of the considerations in terms of the performance. So in consideration, this is very much a slimmed down view unified system, very, very nice in terms of maybe using it for commissioning screens, diagnostics, any quick test, loop test, or something like that you want to do. So we don't run the runtime on the PLC. This is purely based on the web server. We only support a subset of the functionality and screen elements compared to a full WinCC unified system, and I'll show you what these are. But the elements that we do support are exactly identical to the HMI panel on the PC-based system itself. So in terms of the functionality, what are the differences? So we can see the list here, and you'll get a copy of this in terms of the PDF and the recording to view back in your own time. So the things I would point out is we support the basic and objects and elements. We support graphics and dynamic objects. On the runtime system, we have a full runtime system, so we obviously support logging, which we don't support obviously in the unified view of things. We support alarming, we support faceplates, and all of the controls, trend control, alarm controls. On the view of things, we are limited in terms of the maximum number of screens to 10 screens, and the maximum number of tags to 100 tags. So this is just to guarantee the performance of the F7-1500. Its first priority is obviously the automation tasks that it has, not delivery of an HMI system. So by keeping these limitations, we can ensure the performance of the 1500 remains optimal. In terms of the connection dynamics, we support direct tags, we support screen change, system functions, and scripting. So basic scripting directly on the screen, obviously not advanced scripting. We don't have things like the database and things like that to take advantage of some of these functionality. The user management for view of things is done purely on the management system of the web server of the PLC itself. So we can't natively integrate these, for instance, into an Active Directory server like we could for the central management system of a full HMI or a PC-based system. So, okay, you can read these back in your own time. At this point, we want to have a look at view of things. So I'm going to pass you over to our technical specialist, Colin Street, who's going to take you through a live demonstration of WinCC Unified View of Things. Over to you, Colin.
Thanks, Dan. Before we add the View of Things application, I'd first of all like to show you that I'm using PLC Sim Advanced. So PLC Sim Advanced version 4 allows me to simulate the web server and also simulate the View of Things. As Dan mentioned, we need to activate the web server, and we can see I've already done this, and I've also added my user called Somatic and give them the correct or an access level of administrative. So now what we'll do is we'll go to our web application, and we're going to add a View of Things application. So we just do a double click and add. I'm going to take a screen out of my library and drag it across into the screen section. So we'll take the View of Things start screen and drag that into my screen section. I then need to set this screen to be the start screen, so we do that through the runtime settings. And the screen's not quite complete. We need to actually tag the system up. So let's double click on the screen. And we're now going to navigate to our instance DBs, and we're going to select the oil color instance DB. We're going to navigate down to intake red, HMI intake, and then we're going to drag and drop the open close onto the toggle button, and then the inflow speed onto the slider. And we're going to do this for intake green and intake blue. One thing to note is View of Things will only show the objects in the toolbox that can be placed on the screen. So it reduces the toolbox objects. So once we've tagged up the remaining objects, we can close the screen down. And all that's left for us to do is to perform a compile. So we do a right mouse click and compile software rebuild all. We then need to download this. So we'll go to our PLC and select the download. Once the dialog appears, I'm going to have to enter my password, which I'll do. And we also need to remember to enter the checkbox for the View of Things application. So under Web Applications, we'll expand that. I'll select the checkbox to make sure the View of Things is downloaded. We'll now select Load. We can now start our web browser and log into the View of Things. So let's start the web browser now. Log into View of Things. We'll log in with the user. Okay, and now I can change the flow rate with the sliders. And I can also change the on-off control with the toggle buttons. And with that, I'll hand back to Dan.
Okay, thank you very much, Colin. So a live view there of the WinCC Unified View of Things. So the next topic we're going to quickly touch upon is the concept of collaboration within WinCC Unified. So this is quite a unique functionality that we have. So this is the ability for disparate WinCC Unified systems to collaborate with each other. So what does that mean? Well, in the example we're showing here, what we're looking at is two PC-based systems, each with their own clients. And we're seeing two WinCC Unified HMI systems, obviously with their own local visualization system. So collaboration allows us to seamlessly share screens between the devices. So what that means is if we have a look at the first PC-based system, I have the ability to open a screen that's actually engineered and downloaded to one of the HMIs, for instance. So it allows us to seamlessly integrate distributed shop floor systems into one system. So the distributed configurations currently with version 17 are supported across the Unified Comfort panels, and they're supported across the PC-based platform itself. They currently support screens only. In future releases, we are going to be supporting process tags, alarms. We're going to be supporting parameter data as well. So it allows us a really powerful option to integrate disparate systems into one fully functional systems without having to configure it all again within the individual projects. So what might that look like? Well, here we have a quick example where we've got maybe multiple OEM machines deployed onto a line. And what we want is the ability for a single operator to walk up and down the line and have access to the full system. So within the engineering of the projects, we've just got screen windows that we use with the ability to pull back via collaboration different screens from different machines. So for instance, we may get an alert on machine B, the operator's physically at machine A, he can simply access machine B via collaboration. And what it's doing is routing the requests then for this screen, pulling it back and displaying it directly on machine A. So very, very powerful functionality, only supporting screens today, but will expand quite significantly with future releases into version 17 and version 18 of TIA Portal. So the next topic we'll have a look at is SiVArc. So SiVArc is our semantic visualization architecture option. So it's a licensed option for TIA Portal. It's an add-on. And it's an option we've had for some time within TIA Portal, supporting the previous Comfort and WinCC Professional options, and we've now included it for WinCC Unified as well. What SiVArc allows us to do is via standardization within the TIA Portal, so standardization of our PLC programs, our blocks, and standardization of our HMI objects and library types, we can create some rules within SiVArc will allow us to automatically generate our visualization systems based on the unified panels, based on the unified PC-based platform. So this is, again, for OEMs, for system integrators and larger end users, this is a really, really important option. So as an example, we have a customer that uses SiVArc, and they use it to generate in excess of 75,000 objects in less than 10 minutes. So the full system completely generated using standardization in SiVArc, which also means they can use it to manage change as well. So if they change a single object, they don't have to recompile all the projects and change everything. They can just use SiVArc to auto-generate that. So this is going to be our next deep dive topic. So at this point, I'll pass you back to Colin Street, who's going to give us a live demonstration.
Thanks, Dan. SiVArc allows us to build a relationship between elements in our library, such as this intake function block and this unified intake faceplate, and the PLC call structure. So these relationship is done using SiVArc rules. So first of all, we'll have a look at some SiVArc screen rules. So we'll open the screen rules up. We're going to split the window so we can look at the call structure as well. So SiVArc works on rule triggers. So this first rule here will be triggered when SiVArc sees the intake function block. When it sees the intake function block, it's going to use the screen object text overview, which is in the library, as we can see here, and it's going to place it onto the template screen, which is also in the library, as we can see. When the next rule is triggered, again with the intake function block, it's going to take the intake faceplate screen object, which is a unified faceplate here, and we're going to place that onto the template screen. Again, as we can see, that's in the library. The last rule that's triggered is the tank mixing function block. This will then place the button navigation screen object onto the start screen. And again, both of these are in the library. SiVArc also has tag rules, as we can see here. The tag rules allow a relationship between the program block folder structure and the unified PC runtime tag table. So in our case, our HMI tags will be placed into a tag table called function groups. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll close these editors down and remove the split. What we'll do is open up our unified PC runtime, and I'm going to copy the template screen into the screen section. I'll copy this from the library. So let's take the template screen. This template screen has a hidden text box just to aid explanation. So we're going to make this visible now. We're going to drag a few more objects from the library onto the screen as well for explanation purposes. Let's go to our libraries. We're going to drag our button navigation and place this onto the screen. And we're going to drag our text overview and place this onto the screen. We'll now click the background of the template screen and select the plugins tab. Like so. And we can see here the name is a SiVArc statement. And this SiVArc statement will replace the name with the instance DB name. So for example, it will be replaced by acrylic paint, oil color, pastel color, watercolor. We'll click on the button here. When the button is generated, that will also take the instance DB name, and it will take the text as the instance DB name. If we select the text, which will be the title, that will take the text again as the instance DB name, and its name will be that also. If we go back to the button and select the SiVArc events, this has a change screen event, which will pass the instance DB name to the plant area screen window. And this screen window is on the start screen. We're also going to select the property value on that screen window and change the caption text. Okay, so we can now close this window down and we can delete the template because we don't need it within here. So let's do delete. And now we're going to open up our unified faceplate. So the unified faceplate has got a title on it, which is called color. That color is going to be replaced by red, green, or blue. The inflow speed will be connected to a tag, and it will allow us to change the inflow speed and we'll be able to toggle the valve on and off with this object. The tag interface is connected to the PLC UDT, and the property interface is connected to a string to allow us to dynamically change the color. If we click here, this object has also got a hidden text box to aid explanation. And here we have some more SiVArc statements. So when SiVArc sees this statement, it will replace it with intake red, intake green, or intake blue. When SiVArc sees this statement, it will replace it with red, green, or blue. And when SiVArc sees this statement, it will connect a tag to the UDT, of which these are an example. Let's go back to our Visualization tab and compile the PLC. So I'll just do a quick compile. We'll then select our Unified PC runtime and press the SiVArc button at the top, followed by Generate. This will then generate the screens for us and also the tags. We can see it's generated all the screens. Let's look at the start screen. That's now got 4 buttons on it. If we click on the oil color button and select Properties, it's got a name of oil color and its text is oil color. If we select the watercolor, again, its name is watercolor and its text is watercolor. And they're the instance DB names. Under the events, we can now see the change screen has been changed, so the oil color will go to plant area and the caption will change. If we look at our oil color template, its text has been changed for its title, as we can see here. And now if we look at the instance of the faceplate, it's called intake red. And if we select the miscellaneous tab or selection and then interface, we can see the tag has been connected to the UDT and we have a value of red. This instance has a green tag and green color, and this instance has the blue tag and blue color. Okay, I'm going to do a full compile now. So compile and software rebuild all. Once the compile is complete, we'll then download to our Unified PC runtime. We're going to do a full download and we're going to start runtime. Once the download is complete, we'll then switch the desktop and start our web browser. So we're now going to the desktop, start the web browser, and log into our Unified PC runtime. So we'll log in with our username and password, like so. Now when we select the oil color button, we can see we can open and close the valves for our oil color, and we can also change the inflow speed. We can change to watercolor and we'll see the caption and title changing. We can also now go back to our view of screens, view of things. We can log in again. And from here, we can change the values also. So we can change the value of the slider and we'll see it change here. And we can also open and close the valves. And now I'll hand back to Dan.
Colin, so as you can see, that was a very, very quick demonstration, but a very, very powerful demonstration. And for those of us that like to work smart and not hard, this is a real time saver and ensures quality within the projects as well. So the next quick topic I just want to talk about is around the logging concept, archive concept within WinCC. So one of the powerful options we've always had within our visualization system is the inclusion of archives. So we don't need necessarily to have, for instance, a SCADA system and a separate archive. We can always combine the two, keeps costs down and engineering down. And we have the same concept, but a lot more flexibility within WinCC Unified now. So as an entry level, you don't get the full SQL server, for instance, on the PC-based platform. We use SQLite. So that means we don't have the cost of the SQL server built into the runtime system of the PC-based platform. We only include SQLite as standard. So if you want to do small to medium applications up to 5,000 logging tags, fully supported using SQLite on a PC-based platform and on the HMI platform as well. So exactly the same. If then you decide actually you need to go beyond 5,000 logging tags, you can scale up to an Microsoft SQL server. And because we use exactly the same schemas, exactly the same logging structures, you can just scale up from SQLite into Microsoft SQL Server. Today, with version 17, we don't support the central archive, but we will in future releases support a dedicated central archive separate from the HMI, separate from the PC-based platform, so we can consolidate archives into one central point. So a lot of flexibility. The next topic we just wanted to quickly show you is around the status and diagnostics indicator. So again, it's something that looks quite a small update, but we think quite a nice update, so we wanted to point it out. We include standard indicators using dynamic SVGs that you can see here. So these are out of the box, so you can see these will indicate statuses automatically from the PLC, and we use a standard system tag for this, so the diagnostic state indicator. So of course, if you want to create your own dynamic SVGs, you can do that as well. In combination with this indicator, we've included a standard control, which is the system diagnostic control, and this is supported for the Unified Comfort Panel and the PC-based platform. What this allows us to do is drag a standard control at the library, drop it onto a unified screen, and then we can seamlessly get access to the PLC diagnostics buffer within runtime. So I will now pass you back over to Colin Street, who will give us a quick demonstration of this in action. Thank you, Colin.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is add the system diagnostics control to the start screen. So let's double click on the start screen, and we can see the new system diagnostics control in our control section. Let's just drag this onto the screen and line it up to the left with a snap line. And now what I'm going to do is just remove some of the editors to give me a bit more space. And then I'm going to line the right side up with a snap line as well, as we can see, and change the height of it slightly. We just do a quick compile, and then we can just do a download to our Unified PC runtime. We'll go back to our web browser. Once we're at the web browser, we just do a refresh, and then we'll see the control. And now straight away with the control, we can see the CPU messages coming in for logged on users, warm restart, etc., etc. As we can scroll down and see some more messages from the CPU. Okay, thank you. Back to Dan.
Thank you, Colin. So moving swiftly now on to the Unified Comfort Panels. Just wanted to pick out a quick highlight. So we've obviously looked at the remote clients, which is an important addition to the panels. Another, I guess, unique piece of functionality that we have within the panels, and this has existed since launch, is we fully support our industrial edge platform within the panels. So I talked at the beginning of this presentation where we've got the ability to run WinCC Unified directly within a Docker container and run on Industrial Edge. Here now we're looking at the panels themselves that include this Industrial Edge platform. This gives us the ability to deploy containerized applications based on Docker directly to the HMI panels themselves on a one-to-one basis. So for instance, if you want to deploy a Docker-based MQTT connector, or maybe like a SendMail application or something like that, you can easily deploy that application directly to the panel and use that to connect into other systems or carry out new functionality. On our industry online support, if you search for the Unified Comfort Panel and Edge, you'll see application examples, you'll see free applications, a whole lot of stuff to get you started. So at the moment, we support locally managed edge devices, which means they're managed on a one-to-one relationship. We really open the edge interface on a one-to-one relationship based on a browser. In a future release coming this year, we will introduce a new build for the panels, where we'll be able to introduce the integration of these into our central edge management system. So if you're using multiple panels throughout a facility, we'll be able to centrally manage them, centrally update them, centrally deploy applications to the panels as well. So giving us a lot more functionality in terms of the overall scalability of the systems. So moving back onto the PC-based systems, I want to quickly look at some of the plant intelligence options that we have. So some of the options that we can add, so licensed options for the PC-based systems. The first one of these is the audit option. So this was something that was notably absent with the version 16 release, but we've now introduced this with version 17, and we've introduced the first step of our audit capability with the audit basis option. So what does this allow us to do? It allows us to create audit trails based on changes on process tags and process tags only. So we can look at doing a trace based on any manual, automated, or direct changes or script changes, and the ability to comment and add reasons for these changes directly into an audit log. We can detect manipulation of the logs, and we can indicate manipulation based on the logs. So if anyone's made any changes, we can indicate a change or a possible change, and we have the ability to obviously report on the audit trail itself, and also include the potential manipulation of data with any audit reports that we produce. So I've mentioned we're talking here about audit basis. So if we're calling it basis, it means there must be something beyond basis, and that's exactly right. So the plan is to release 2 further versions, which is the WinCC Unified Audit Enhanced and the WinCC Unified Audit Max. So the basis, as we just saw, covers logs, it covers manipulation, it covers process tags, and it includes the ability to report on these. The WinCC Unified Audit Enhanced includes all of that functionality, but in addition, we can produce audit trails based on alarms and based on user management. And it also gives us an additional audit control that we can embed directly into WinCC Unified for the management of these audit logs. On the WinCC Unified Audit Max, we include the enhanced and basis functionality, but in addition, we support the plant intelligence options that we'll cover in a second. And this functionality is currently supported based on the PC-based platform, and it will be released for the Unified Comfort Panels as well, but as of today, not supported for the Unified Comfort Panels. So a lot of change coming to support our pharmaceutical applications here. So moving on, in terms of the plant intelligence options, what we've got is 4 focused plant intelligence options, 2 of which are available with version 16. So the calendar option and performance insight option are available, and that's what we're going to have a technical deep dive on with Colin in a second. And we have got 2 further options that I want to make you aware of. One is a sequence option, and the other is line coordination. So first of all, in terms of the sequence option, this allows us to process or manage sequences directly from within WinCC Unified. So we can look at an overall process from a step transition perspective. So this is something that you may well be familiar with if you work with, for instance, DCS systems. So the sequence option is based on an S88 model. And it allows us to integrate, obviously, somatic systems, but also third-party systems as well. So we can control overall sequences in this step transition manual method based on an S88 model. The line coordination option allows us to integrate disparate systems from Siemens or third-party suppliers, so we can get overall systems actually integrated into a full line. So this can be for orchestration of a recipe or batching systems, across a process line where maybe the equipment has been provided from different suppliers. So maybe you've got a Siemens system, maybe you've got a third-party system, maybe you've got an in-house system. We can integrate these with this line coordination level based on WinCC Unified, so we can get the whole system to act as a line and also then report back in as an overall line as well. So these are, as it says there, these are due for release. These are with test customers at the moment. If you think you've got an application that could be a good fit, please let us know and we can have that conversation. The two plant intelligence options that we're going to have a little bit of a deep dive on now are the calendar option. So calendar option allows us, from a WinCC Unified perspective, to start working with a time model. So we can start building up calendars within our production facility. So we can start looking at shifts, day shifts, night shifts. So we can start looking at working weeks, maintenance times, bank holidays, all these sort of things. The final option there is performance insight. So this is the ability to actually work with KPIs and analytics. So we can calculate these up based on WinCC Unified tags. So maybe we can start looking at things like OEE. We can start looking at for instance, an overall Gantt chart or something like that, so we can look at the uptime, downtime of an overall system. So at this point, we'll have a technical deep dive, and I'll pass you over to Colin Street. Or maybe not. Okay, we're not passing to Colin at the moment, so we'll include the recording for the plant intelligence option in the video that we sent out. Now we're into the final wrap-up slide. So in terms of the just finishing off this section, we've got a whole load of information available to support your projects within WinCC Unified. So a whole lot of getting started information. We've got a whole lot of tutorials. There's an active community around WinCC Unified, and we can include a whole lot of tutorial centers for things like the videos that we support. So let's have a quick look at that. So this is what we can provide for you. You'll get the links to this. You can look at it afterwards. A full tutorial, including videos. You can get things like the HMI template suite. There's also a guideline. So if you're working within things like WinCC Unified now, when you previously worked with Comfort, for instance, you want to understand how to migrate up, we can support that as well. Maybe, John, if we've got time to pass over to Colin now for the final video on Performance Insight.
Okay. Before we start looking at the Performance Insight configuration, let's just have a quick look at the PLC. So I'll look at our program blocks, and I'm going to open up my machine data. Under my machine data block, I've got 3 machines. I've got one called infeed, one called main, and one called outfeed. They're all based on the machine data UDT, and they all have the state, the product total, the product rejects, and the maximum throughput of the machine. We're not actually calculating the good items within the PLC. This can be done in WinCC Unified and also in Performance Insight. So as I said, these machines are exactly the same. Let's close this down, and we'll go and have a look at our PC runtime. So the project is based around the HMI template suite. So if we open this up and look at the screens, this is the screen structure for the HMI template suite. We select on the screens. These are all my screens that I'm going to use. So I've got things like an analyzer control, bar control, calendar control, etc. Performance Insight is actually configured under the Plant Objects tab. And the first thing we're going to do is look at the time model. So we'll double click on the time model. And then we can see here we've got the total time. So the total time is broken down into running, stopped, machine planned downtime, unplanned downtime, production, etc. So we can see all the different states here. If we expand the running time out, that's also split into startup and automatic. So if we click on startup and automatic, If we select the startup here, we can see this is a value-based machine state. So when the state of the machine is between 20 and 29, then we're in startup. When it's in automatic, between 30 and 49, etc. Okay, we'll close this down as well. The other element of performance insight is the performance indicators. So let's open this. And the first thing we do is look at global operands. So global operands come in the form of counters and numeric operands. I have two counters. I have a total items and total rejects. The total items is an incremental counter, and its unit of measurement is pieces. And I have total rejects, again, which is an incremental counter in pieces. And then I've got my numeric operands, which is basically going to use my items produced and max to calculate my performance. If we now click onto our global KPIs and select the counts area, we select total items, we can see that the KPI formula is based on the sum of the counter items. So when we calculate the KPI, it will count up the sum for us. Again with the rejects, it will count across the time period, and then the good items is derived from the total items minus the rejects. So we can see here we can use KPIs within KPIs. So we can add KPIs, and we can also use the time model to create our KPIs as well. So running, stopped, etc. To create an instance of the KPI, we place this on a plant object type. So we'll just delete this one. And then we'll open my machine plant object type. So the machine plant object type has got an interface. And the interface is linked to my PLC structure. So we see state, product total, product rejects, maximum, etc. All of the elements associated with this plant object type are also logged. So each element here is also logged within the system, within the database. And that's to allow us to calculate the KPI over any time period we wish. This plant object type could also have discrete and analog alarms, but it doesn't have any. We have performance indicators. So here we've got our total items, total rejects, etc. These KPIs are basically dragged from our global KPIs section, and I've added them already, so I have all our KPIs. So we now need to link our operands to the KPIs. So if we select operands and we look at the counter, we can see here that total items is connected to product total, and total rejects is connected to product rejects. And we can see there tags from the interface. The machine state, if we expand it out, is linked to the state tag that we can see, like so. And then we also have calculation settings. So calculation settings additionally allow us to calculate a KPI on a regular basis. We don't have any visualization. So this plant object type can calculate the KPI every minute. Once we've got our plant object type, we create instances of it by dragging it to our plant view. Like so. I already have the in-feed and main and out-feed, so I won't drag it on or drop it. Let's open the in-feed, and we can see that this interface of the in-feed is now connected to my machine data in-feed tag. And the same would be for out-feed, for main and out-feed. Let's go back to our devices, and we'll double click on our bar and pie screen. When the graphics editor opens, we'll see more controls available when we install Performance Insight. So we can see here we've got a performance analyzer control, performance bar chart control, a performance control, Gantt, etc., and pie chart. Let's have a look at the pie chart I already have configured. If we scroll down to the interface section of the properties, we can select the KPIs, and we can see here I've got 5 KPIs for that instance of pie chart. You just open this out slightly and select the button. To select the KPI, we go to our plant view, and then we go to line, and then in our case, we could go to in-feed. And there we can see the KPIs that are associated with that instance of the plant object type. Let's have a look and see what that's like in runtime. So first of all, we'll go to machine data. And on machine data, we can see the different states that the machine are in. So we can see we're in cleaning, and we've got a yellow light on our light stack. It's now operator failure, so it's red. We've got the number of items produced, the number of rejects, and with JavaScript, we're calculating the good. Okay, let's go to our bar and pie screen. So now we've got our bar and pie screen popped up. If we look at the settings, we can see the indicators that we can turn on and off. We have our general settings, and then we have our time ranges. And in my case, I've chosen to say, I would like to calculate a minute KPI based on a minute ago. I've also set the controls up so they have a 10-second update. So every 10 seconds, they'll recalculate the KPI. And this would be great for like an and-on board or something like that. Let's have a look at our hierarchy control, which basically uses the plant view. So as we click on line 1, we can then select main in-feed, and this will open a screen window companion and populate the pie chart and bar chart for us. The next thing to look at would be the analyzer control. In our case, what we use in the analyzer control is to show our KPIs calculated on a minute basis. So total items, total rejects, quality, and performance. So we can see the graph being highlighted as we move along. With this button over here, we can actually add more indicators. So now we'll just add the in-feed counters total items and just add this. It makes the graph a little bit busy, but then also we can see this has now been added to the bottom, but we can also zoom. So let's zoom in on it to see the data. We'll now have a look at a control. And this control allows us to look at machines or items across 2 time ranges. So I'm going back 2 minutes for 1 minute and then another minute. And here we can then compare between the 2 different time ranges. So between the 2 different time ranges, we can see that the performance is identical, but the quality was better at this point here. We then have an overview control. The overview control allows us to show count data in a tabular format. So let's turn some of the indicators off. So we'll just show the in-feed. So we'll turn main and out-feed off, like so. And this is now showing us the total items count over a period of time and the total rejects count over a period of time. On all of these controls, we can also export the data to CSV. We'll next have a look at the Gantt view. The Gantt control allows us to look at the states that the machine is as defined in the time model. So here we can see we're in startup, etc. From here, we can see the frequency of the number of occurrences that we've had within the time range and also the time that we've had within that time range. We can change the view, so it's an equipment view. This makes it a flatter view. So there we can then start comparing the machine states if we wish to cross time. And we can also just show one machine, so we can go back to the in-feed and show out the data here. We can also access the controls using script. So let's populate the in-feed control on the 2 items here. So we can see we've got in-feed and on the bar and pie. We'll put main on as well. And what we can see from the pie chart can only show 1 element at a time, whereas the bar chart can show the 3 elements, and we can then compare them. So we can see we compare good and rejects, etc., whereas this only shows 1. We can click this button here just to remove the data or remove the window. remove the data. We'll then use script to remove the window. We can then resize, and we can also change the styles. So we can turn the pie into a donut, and we can change the bar chart as well. Okay, and back to Dan.
Okay, thank you very much, Colin. So that's it from us. Apologies, we've gone a little bit over there, but as you can see, there's so much to talk about with WinCC Unified. There's a whole lot of things that we had to cut that we wanted to show because we just didn't have time. So if there's any questions, please post them in the questions box. We'll get back to these separately. You're going to get the PDF. You'll get the recording of this session. And any more questions, you've got our contact details. Please get in touch. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.